Mr. Clerk, it is 7 p.m. I will call this council meeting to order. Council, can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Gallo. Call the vote. That carries. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. We have a community presentation. Mr. Roy Cohn representing Aurora FC. Mr. Cohn, welcome. You have 5 minutes, and when it gets to a minute, you'll hear a chime, just to let you know.
Thank you very much for having me tonight. Mr. Mayor, esteemed council, it's great to be here tonight. I am the president of the Aurora Youth Soccer Club and Aurora FC, respectively. I've been a resident of Aurora for over 35 years and been coaching for over 25, been part of the soccer club for close to 20, been on the board for 12 years, and have been the president for the last 3 years. Boy, it's been a long journey, and when I inherited the club as president, it was in a financial disaster. It was a lot of work to fix. We fixed it, and tonight is a feel-good story. With the town's assistance and their assistance, we rectified the ship. We had great conversation with councillors and an excellent rapport with our new mayor, who's been tireless in helping everybody in this community. And at the soccer club, we respected very much. There were times where the mayor would just drop by and see how we were doing, and the staff would be buzzing for a couple of days saying, oh, the mayor was here, the mayor was here. And it was great. He just wanted to come in and check and to see how everything was going. And, you know, we were going through some difficult times. And I approached the town, Doug, Robin, Al, and John Furman, to assist, and they did. They stepped up. They did a fantastic job in helping us with reallocating some funds that were due to the town, and they gave us some time to pay it, and we did. But that assistance helped us stay above water. And I'm very proud to say that after 3 years of my tenure, we've built our reserves back to close to $600,000. So we're in very good shape. And we're very proud of the fact that the town has been integral all the way through. You have an amazing staff, amazing. And I just for a second want to talk about one of your staff, John Furman, that really always assisted us and gave us some guidance that was absolutely brilliant. But it was from his heart. It was about the community. He has a son, Ben, that plays at the highest level in Ontario. He's an aspiring young star and a great soccer player. And I had him when he was 5. I coached him. And I knew that this kid was going to be special. So, John, thank you. Your guidance, your mentorship really helped the club, and it actually saved us. So I really appreciate it. To the council, to our amazing mayor, tonight's award is the Award of Merit and Community Partner. And you're all deserving of this award because this is a fantastic town, and this council and this mayor are absolutely brilliant. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart. So at this time, I'd like to present this award to the mayor, and I have something for all the councillors as well. honorary volunteers of the Aurora Youth Soccer Club and Aurora FC, and you all have free passes to all our League One games. So thank you, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everybody.
Thank you, Roy. Thank you, Roy. Council, if I could get a motion to receive, Councillor Gilliland, Councillor Humphreys, any comments or questions for Mr. Cohn? Anybody? Oh, Councillor Gallo.
Just a heartfelt thank you to you also, Roy, for everything you do for the community for many, many years, soccer, hockey. Your reputation is exceptional, and I don't say that lightly. So thank you to you for everything you do for this community.
Councillor Thompson.
Just to echo that, Roy, you've come to the podium many times in the past, and certainly, you're a tireless supporter of Aurora Youth Soccer, and I'm just a little surprised you didn't try and sneak in a little word about more soccer fields, but we understand. We might see you back. We might see you back when the field strategy is being presented in the new year.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Councillor Thompson. Thank you, everybody.
We got one more for you, Roy. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much for coming today and awarding this presentation and everything. It was fantastic, and thank you so much for what you guys do for the community. And I can't wait to try on that jersey and show up and be supportive, and rah, rah, I love it. Thank you.
And Roy, thank you very much for the kind words. Oh, Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say thank you again. You've heard it all, but I just want to thank you for acknowledging staff as well and make a difference. And, very proud to hear that you have 600,000 in reserves compared to where you were 3 years ago. It's a great testament to yourself, your dedication, and to staff to help out our partners. So thank you so much for acknowledging that. It means a lot to me.
Humphreys, just one quick note. I mean, we're a small community of 50,000, yet our club has become the envy of all of Ontario. They don't know how we do it. We have the pathway that goes right through to League One. There are big centers like Richmond Hill and Newmarket that have hundreds of thousands of members or of citizens that don't have the same pathway we do. So it's a collaboration. We work together and we've achieved together, and we'll continue to do that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Roy. And like I said, I want thank you for your kind words, for staff, for council, for myself. And we've said this many times, it's about the kids and the work that you do and the club does for our kids and residents of this community. We thank you for everything you guys have done. So thank you very much for this award tonight.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate everything. Thank you. Have a nice evening, everybody. Thank you.
Call a vote. That carries. Delegations, we have one. Suzanne Little. In regards to Councillor Kim's motion. Suzanne, I'll just remind you have 5 minutes, and you'll hear a chime at 1 minute to go.
Good evening. My name is Suzanne Little. I am a mother of a child who attends Aurora Heights Public School. I am also under contract for an agency hired by the town of Aurora as a crossing guard at the intersection of Tecumseh Drive and Kitimat Crescent for the past 3 years. My only objective tonight is to convince you that a sidewalk is the only safe option for the children of Kitimat Crescent, the children who attend Aurora Heights Public School, seniors, pedestrians, and people with limited mobility. I have written and rewritten so many drafts for my delegation tonight, just trying to find the right words that will help you understand, why and how unsafe it is to have children walking along Kitimat Crescent with cars driving past them. Just in the past 2 weeks, I have watched as Mother Nature has unleashed a blast of wintry weather. I've watched as cars have slid through the intersection on glare ice. I've watched cars drive by with next to no visibility because they haven't bothered to clear their windows of snow. I've watched as a young driver fails to stop for the stop sign, the music blaring with his phone in his hand. I watched the other day as 2 school buses turned to go down Kitimat as a mother, her 5-year-old child, and her baby in a stroller had to slip in between 2 parked cars to allow the school buses to pass. I've watched as drivers do 3-point turns backing up towards families walking on the road. I've watched the impatient, aggressive, and distracted drivers show no respect towards the safety of the children or the rules of the road. My safety concerns are not all completely directed at only the motorists. Sometimes the pedestrians can also be distracted or impatient. The children can be unpredictable and impulsive. Hats and hoods can make it difficult to see. Slips and falls can happen easily. Accidents happen. They can happen for any number of reasons. It only takes a second, and unfortunately, I know all too well that bad things can happen to good people. Cars and children just don't mix. Within my first month as the crossing guard, I contacted the town of Aurora to tell them how dangerous Kitimat was because of the children on the road, and that a sidewalk was much needed. I was told that a sidewalk had been approved in 2016 and was to be installed in 2018 or 2019. June 2018, it came to my attention that many of the residents were opposed to the installation of the sidewalk. I sent an email to the town giving them my perspective as to why I felt a sidewalk was the only safe option. September 2018, I attended the open house for the proposed sidewalk. My presence was not very well received, to say the least. It was a very angry room, and I left shaken. I was unaware of the March 2019 meeting until just hours before, and unfortunately, I was unable to address council. I was shocked and angry when the sidewalk was overturned. Never in a million years did I think that driveway space would overrule the safety of children. I didn't get it, and I still don't. Children are vulnerable, and it's our duty as adults to keep them safe. A safe travel route should take priority for children just trying to get to school. To the residents of Kitimat Crescent, I truly mean no disrespect. I've thoroughly enjoyed getting to know many of them over the years, and I'm sorry that we are on opposite sides of this fence. I can sympathize with their frustration that they must feel some days. The people who park on their street aren't bad people. They are just trying to get their kids to and from school. For the most part, I believe that most motorists are respectful in the way that they park and drive. Unfortunately, there are that handful of motorists that ruin it for everyone. To the caregivers who are dropping off their little bundles of joys, please have respect. Respect the stop signs and the rules of the road. Respect the frustration of the neighbors. Kitimat is a crescent. Please don't do U-turns or three-point turns. Take that extra 30 seconds and drive out the other end. Please don't park illegally. Please don't park or stop in a way that obstructs the view of the crosswalk. Slow down, pay attention, and imagine the child walking on the road or the child I am crossing is yours. Imagine Kitimat Crescent is the street you live on. For 3 years, I have watched the intersection of Tecumseh and Kitimat during prime drop-off and pickup time, through all types of weather, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I truly believe that no one knows that intersection better than myself. I feel as strongly today as I did 3 years ago. The only safe option for the pedestrian safety is a sidewalk. Many years ago, a very wise woman gave me a piece of advice that I've never forgotten. She told me that I am the only voice my child has, and to never be afraid to stand up to anyone if I felt it was in the best interest of my child. The children of Aurora Heights Public School may not all be mine, but I will protect them as if they were. Please help me protect these children. Please give them a safe passageway to and from school. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Council, can I get a motion to receive and refer to the notice of motion? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Kim, any comments or questions for the delegate? Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you again for delegating. And I know this is really important to you. It's important to all of us. It's a serious issue. The safety of our children is paramount, right? And absolutely, and I do understand your concerns totally. And I think there's more that can be done than just sidewalks. I think sidewalks can be part of it, but there's a lot more that can be done. And I have a lot of faith in staff and the school and some parents that will be probably part of that working group, because I think there'll be bigger changes that'll help even further the safety of that area. Because it's, even with sidewalks, I worry about, you mentioned distracted drivers and things that are going on. There's so much happening at that moment that it's and I've been there lots before and after, and it's shocking what I see as well. And I'm sure it's been going on, and you see it every single day, which I can understand why it's so, such a burden on you. So I do feel that I'm looking forward to getting some progress reports once the session's starting to work, and what can be done to significantly make some big changes there. So I've heard of some draft things. They're nothing formal yet, but it's so encouraging that I'm really hopeful that you'll feel really happy when we're at the end of this project. So I just wanted to, hopefully you can have some faith and that things will be good for your children and all of our children to be safe there. So
Thank you.
thank you for delegating again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you.
Call the vote. That carries. This council will move to consent agenda. Does anyone have anything they want to pull or question on these ones? If not, if I can get a motion to approve C1 to C5. Councillor Gilliland, Councillor Kim. Call the vote. That carries. Standing committee reports. Comments, questions, anything to be pulled? Councillor Thompson.
R2.
R2. Thank you. Councillor Gallo. Same one? Thank you. Is that it? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve all items minus R2 on the standing committee report? Councillor Gilliland, Councillor Thompson. Call the vote. That carries. So we'll move to items requiring separate discussion. Council, I would suggest that we have people here in regards to Councillor Kim's motion. If we could bring that forward, is everyone okay with that? Mr. Clerk, do I need a motion for that, or can we just bring that forward? I think everyone's okay with that, so we'll just bring it forward. Okay. So we'll bring that forward, so we'll move to Councillor Kim's motion, and then we'll move back to R2 after that, okay? All right. So we have Councillor Kim's motion up. So Councillor Kim, would you like to move that?
Move that forward, please.
Would you like to move it as is?
As is.
As is. Thank you. Second? Someone like to second that? Councillor Gilliland? Thank you. Councillor Kim, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, as we all know, sidewalks are an integral part of the streetscape. It's an integral part of safety. It's a dedicated space to walk the road safely. You know, my preference, my belief is that all streets should have at least one side of the street with a sidewalk. You know, Councillor Humphrey's motion last month to create a working group of stakeholders to review the traffic situation in front and around Aurora Heights Public School is separate from the sidewalk. I think that motion and the working group will produce some great ideas and suggestions that will greatly help and ease the safety concerns that currently exist. But that's a separate item, and I think, you know, the sidewalk is step one, and the working group will be step two to add to the safety features and the efficiency of the traffic there. And, you know, I've heard, you know, there's been a lot of stakeholders who've chimed in something that, you know, one would think would be quite simple, which is constructing a sidewalk for safety. And I've heard some people say that we haven't had an accident in over 30 years while living in this neighborhood. And when it comes to safety, words like that are, you know, meaningless. One accident and the safety record goes to zero. Risk mitigation is to keep the safe track record going. A neighborhood or street is safe until it isn't. I've also heard people say that the area is only busy for about 50 minutes out of the day. But in those 50 minutes, you have pretty well 95% of the pedestrian and traffic volume. And that is the big variable here, or the big fact here. It's not about how much time of the day, the location, you know, the location is hustle and bustle, but rather the volume of people and cars that go through this area. And I know that, you know, a couple months ago, you know, council and myself, we voted to not proceed with sidewalks on the Adair, Browning Court, and Johnson area. My preference has always been to put in sidewalks. Those streets do not have the volume of traffic for any given time of the day or week as the Aurora Heights Public School area. This area is not used by many students. It's not used as a thoroughfare to get to Regency Acres Public School. And in addition, almost everyone on these streets did not want the sidewalk. So when you have, I think it was other than one resident in those 2 blocks that wanted the sidewalk or did not want the sidewalk, did I get that right? But it didn't make any sense for there to be a sidewalk in that neighborhood. Several years ago, as I was doing some reading on sidewalks, a resident was walking on the far side of the road in the city of Windsor, a road without a sidewalk on one side. And he decided to cross the street to the side with the sidewalk. He got run down by an SUV and is a quadriplegic. The person sued the driver, but when he discovered that the driver's insurance was capped at $1 million or so, what do? They go around seeking other stakeholders that they can sue. And naturally, the city of Windsor, what did the city of Windsor have to do with the accident? Because they didn't have another sidewalk. And so, in what municipal insurance industry would say, they have this 1% rule that even if you're 1% accountable, you could be accountable for 99.9% of the liability. And so I think, for us as a risk mitigation, even if it's just one street, if there's an opportunity to put a sidewalk in and it makes sense and some residents want it, and there's a public school that uses the street for whatever reason, pedestrian or vehicular traffic, it makes sense to construct one. Now, some people have also let us know that the property values would be impacted by potentially decreasing their driveways and potentially their parking area. Staff have already said several months ago that it would not impact their traffic, their ability to continue to park 2 cars. It might be a little bit tight, but they can still do so. But they continually say that the property values would be impacted by decreasing their driveways, and people have no property rights. This is our town boulevard, and yet they expect council to not only consider their illusory property rights, but that we should consider them over and above the safety of our citizens. And that doesn't make sense to me. Safety in the end always trumps everything. Thank you.
That's right on the dot, Councillor. 5 minutes. Good job. I was about to cut you off, but that's... Councillor Humphreys.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That was really good. Just quick question about the sidewalks. So one of the things that we said when we did move that motion forward was that the $100,000 budget would be considered as part of that working group's allocation to come up with solutions to help with the situation. Is there any way at all that we can combine this motion with that working group to be in consideration, or is this absolutely 2 different things? If you, Mr. Mayor, or anyone, staff, it looks like this is 2 different directions, isn't it?
Clark, can you help us out on that?
Looks like it's 2 different directions for me.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, not coming up with a very procedurally correct way of combining the 2 motions at the moment. An amendment could be made to this motion to incorporate the last motion, particular or possibly, but that's the only way I could.
It's very
I could see it. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. So my only concern is how is that other group going to function when they don't have budget if this goes through? It is our infrastructure team that will be working on this, and we had allocated this budget that was removed. It was brought back into the. So that's the one thing to think about. And also, just a quick question: will the sidewalks? I can't remember. Are they on both sides of the road for this project, or on one side?
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the sidewalk would be located on the north side of Kitimat.
The north side of
Just one side
Kitimat.
only.
Which way is the north? Towards the school?
It would be on the northwest side.
Northwest
So
side.
as you're approaching from the north, it would be the,
Where's the
sorry,
school?
coming south, it would be on the north side.
North side. Is there, through you, Mr. Mayor, do we know why we picked the north side versus the south side?
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, initially, before the survey work had done, it was thought the south side would be preferred, given that it was where the crosswalk was. But through some detailed investigation, looking at the grades, looking at the depth of the driveways, it was decided that the north side would be the most practical and feasible to construct a sidewalk.
Okay.
And
Counselor?
just to finish off on that, you likely require a retaining wall on the south side as well, and potentially relocation of the Canada Post box.
Okay, so
Counselor?
those three, Mr. Mayor, and I mean, I am not an engineer by any means, but I've been walked the area quite a bit. And on the north side, there's many semis that have shorter driveways. And I know many of them will not be able to park 2 cars there anymore, just 1 car. And I noticed the south side, maybe I'm wrong, it could be absolutely wrong. The neighbors know the best, but that side seems to have more space, detached homes, and wider driveways. I could be wrong, but it's, maybe I'm confusing the sides. Whatever the side is, the one that I thought where the mailbox is, what side is that, the south side?
It's the south side.
Okay, so that's just me looking in, but I'm sure the staff will look at this very closely and figure it out. What else do I want to say? I just think if this does go forward, we really need to think about where those sidewalks are going to go and the impact on the homes that can only park 1 car after that's installed. Because there's many there that'll happen to. And I don't want to trump safety over people parking their cars at all, but I just want to take that into consideration. So if one side is better over the other due to parking conditions, that would be great. That would make me feel a lot better. And in the meantime, I certainly don't want it to end here because I don't believe this is the only solution for safety. What happens on that street is unbelievable, and a lot of people are not parking on Kitimat to drop off those kids. They're parking on Tecumseh. They're leaving their cars running. They're running down the street. They're trying to get into where the bus goes. They're trying to stay in front of the school. School helps the kids get out. It's unbelievable. So what we're planning on doing is way better than just a sidewalk. Sidewalk's great. It's a start. So again, I really don't want to lose that budget all for the sidewalk and have this team not have to be able to do anything because the bigger picture of safety is going to be, I can't share, but it's a great design of what they want. Significant changes. So that's all. I've just been very involved in it, that's all. That's why I would feel bad if we tied this working team's hands from a budget perspective.
Thank you, Councillor. I just got a question. I don't know which staff member can answer this. Did we actually put an amount, a budget amount for the working group? Do you have the minutes, Mr. Clark? Can we just find out just so we can be sure about
Certainly,
that?
I'll read the motion so council's clear. Through you, Mr. Mayor, the motion passed at the Tuesday, November 12th meeting was to receive the report that a working group be created to address the safety issues around the school before reporting back. So council did not allocate any money at that time.
So we didn't. So, Councillor, just to answer what your concern was, we did not allocate any funds during that motion. So it's totally separate from what we're doing here this evening. Go ahead. This is your second time.
I'll be quiet after this. Through you, Mr. Mayor, that was my fault then, because when we talked about this back then, the whole thing was the allocation of that budget could be used for, I didn't put it in the motion. It was a discussion point. Probably that's the problem with doing them on the run. So now we have a big problem because this group has to come back and ask for money. And I know for a fact that they were looking at the $100,000. But it entails safety, Mr. Mayor.
I'm going to agree with Councillor Kim tonight.
Okay. That's okay, Harold. It is one vote.
Councillor Gallo?
Just in terms of the $100,000, is that, I haven't had a chance to look, but can someone just confirm that that's the cost that was there originally, and that is sufficient in order to do this?
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that would cover the cost of the sidewalk and any contingencies involved in the construction of it.
Councillor?
And just to also confirm, so it's the north side and then running down the, I guess would be the west side of Kitimat.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments, questions? Councillor Gilliland?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I had the same questions as Councillor Humphreys just about the north versus south side, and I think some of the residents had agreed that if it was going to be have a sidewalk to the south side be considered, just because that's where the mailbox where it was, and there was, I guess, less houses that were being affected within the sidewalk, and I just wondered if within that last input from the public, if that was taken consideration when this motion's coming forward, whether or not the south side would actually work just further after it was designed on the north side. Was that something that you discussed after the fact? Because I kind of feel like that might be a better solution.
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. My engineer has told me that they investigated the south side, and for the reasons I had stated before, the north side provided less impact on driveways.
Councillor?
Thank you. And you did mention that you had some discussions with Canada Post, or you intend on having discussions with Canada Post to change it to the other side so there was more of a safety accessibility to that?
Well, I don't know. I was just saying, I don't know if Mr. Waters has, but I think I've mentioned to you guys that I'll reach out to my contacts. I've dealt with Canada Post, as everyone knows, last term. So I'll reach out to them and see what we can do about moving that community mailbox.
Gotcha.
Can't guarantee anything, but I'll reach out to them and have a discussion with them. It won't be a pleasant discussion, but we'll have that discussion.
Perfect, thank you.
Anything
And
else, Councillor?
yeah, the only thing I just want to add is that, I mean, whether this goes through or not, this doesn't solve the greater picture of the problem that we're faced today, which is the parking issue of the school. And it's really important that we do remember that, you know, we do have this working group, and there's obviously some other solutions that we need to come up with in collaboration with the school and the parents and the residents. And this is not the be all end all of the problem. This won't solve everything, but this could be a step in the right direction for the safety of the community.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. You know, I do share some of the safety concerns that have been raised both by the residents as well as some of my colleagues around the table. You know, we've had people come to the podium and speak to some of the challenges with that street and the fact that residents do have to walk on the road, and so there is a concern with regards to safety. And Councillor Kim alluded to, you know, joint and several liability. Municipalities have been fighting that for many years to get better definitions around that, because it has in the past been an issue for safety issues that even if it's not reliant upon us, it can fall to us when issues happen. We've read and seen lots of cases as we've gone to different conferences, and so I do have a concern, and especially when residents come and say to our staff, we need to plow the roads better so that people can walk up the street. The roadway should never be the first mode of or the first option for residents to walk on. We should have a sidewalk if safety is truly an issue. And so, you know, I do share some of that concerns now that the issue's been raised, that if we ignore it, then it puts the risk on the municipality should something unforeseen happen. And it's unfortunate our solicitor isn't here this evening. It would have been a good question to pose to her with regards to joint and several liability. So I share those safety concerns that have been expressed this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Any other comments or questions? I'm going to agree with kind of all the comments. I mean, hearing that this street is widely used for people to get back and forth to the school is concerning that we don't have a sidewalk on that street. But at the same time, as mentioned, it's not the be all end all to this. It's not going to solve all the problems, but it's going to resolve one issue, which is residents having to walk on a street. They should be walking on the sidewalk where it's much safer. And so that's what we're dealing with tonight. The other one we will deal with through a past motion that we dealt with in creating a working group. And we'll all sit down together and we'll resolve those issues as well. And I'm confident that we will do that. So I'll be in favor of the motion in front of us tonight. And thank you, Councillor Kim, for bringing this forward. Councillor Kim, did you want to speak again?
Final comment is that, you know, as it's been mentioned around the table, you know, the sidewalk's not going to be a silver bullet, but it's just part of the solution. And, you know, we've had a lot of sensitive topics come up over the years, and it's and unfortunately, it's always about self-interest. And it's always up to council to prioritize, you know, what is the number one priority. And as I said earlier, you can't prioritize over safety, whether it be, oh, I can't park another car, or this. You know, we live in a community, and I've said it before, the root word of community is commune, where we share, we make sacrifices. And, you know, it's unfortunate that not everyone's going to come up and pat you in the back and say thank you for your sacrifice. But I'm sure there are others who will appreciate that. And so we live in a community, and people always say we live in a community, and volunteerism and all that, you know, rah-ha-ha stuff. But then when it comes to self-interest, it seems to go out the door. And so I'm all for the sidewalk, and I thank my colleagues to those who will support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kim, call the vote. That carries unanimously. Thank you. So, Council, we'll move to R2, procedural bylaw. Someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Kim, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Gallo.
Thank you. I'm just going to go through some of the questions I had that I wasn't able to do at GC. First off, I agree with the two resolutions that were put forward last week, particularly the one about the public planning. I'm not even sure where that came from. The whole point of public planning is to hear from the public, and in my 7 years sitting here, I don't remember any issues that would have merited what was recommended. So I'm glad we're removing that. And just some questions on the procedural bylaw in its entirety. On page 22 of our agenda, 18E, it says information reports will be placed on an upcoming general committee agenda at the request of a council member. Where required due to urgency or timing, information reports may be considered directly at council as an item. So if we don't, let's say someone doesn't pull that or request it to be on council, does that end up on the town's website anyway? Do those reports? Just a confirmation.
Mr. Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, it does. We have an information report page.
Thank you. On page 28, G, openness and transparency. The clerk shall maintain an annual log of all reports and resolutions considered in closed session, conduct an annual report. It goes on and on and on. My only question is, are we getting this on an annual basis? We haven't done a full year, so it may be coming. I'm just, I'd like to know if it is coming, when it's coming.
Mr. Clerk? I see our CEO nodding his head, but Mr. Clerk?
This, through you, Mr. Mayor, this one's a difficult one. It's always, you're never quite sure, and you're quite, in my position, quite nervous to release something that shouldn't have been released. So, at the beginning of the year, we'll certainly review anything we did last year in this term and decide if we can release anything. And then even if we can't, we can put a report forward to council saying there's really nothing that council did in closed session last year that is released. And we already do things like committee appointments and things like that do get released through usually PSAs, but we do intend to review it.
And that's why I'm not suggesting we release anything we shouldn't. I'm just saying the report should come and then I guess an explanation of to why or why not. On page 37, item 34, notice of motion B, it says the motions, and we're changing it to may be included in the next council agenda for consideration and disposition. And in the notes it says it's a housekeeping change only if notices of motion is not in order. And if that is the case, why don't we put that sentence in the procedural bylaw? The motions may be included on the next council agenda for consideration and disposition only if notices of motion is not in order. I'm not
Mr. Clark?
if that's the rationale, then shouldn't we have it in?
Absolutely, I don't mind that change at all. We could, I think it's a wording change that makes it more clear, and and we could do that without council motion, I believe.
Thank you.
Councillor?
Page 39, I guess it's the first one, the appointment of staff for statutory positions, bylaws, etc. In the notes says housekeeping change to reflect current practices. I'm just unsure of what the change is.
Mr. Clark?
We're just adding, through you, Mr. Mayor, we're just adding in statutory positions. So let's, the statutory positions are myself and Ms. Wainwright Van Kessels. And rather than a report coming to council, we would just put the bylaw straight on the agenda for council to pass the bylaw to confirm the hiring.
Councillor?
Okay. On page 46 of our agenda, 45 voting, general rules 2. Just a comment in terms of the way we do business now. At council, at least, we vote through the tabulator. How does one abstain if we're voting through a tabulator? Because we just wait until everybody votes. So if there isn't an option to abstain, then maybe that shouldn't be there. Or
On abstentions, no, but I would argue, Councillor, that you would just get up and walk away from the table. And I don't know, if Mr. Clark?
There is a provision earlier in the procedure bylaw that notes that abstaining is a no vote, actually. So I think, at a purposeful where you actually tell council I'm abstaining for this, they'd have to record it as a no vote. I do think the mayor's suggestion of walking away from the table may be the most appropriate in this case.
that's fine. It was geared more towards prior to having a tablet, I assume, but that's fine. Page 50, item 51, recording, broadcasting, and/or live streaming meetings. C, attendees using their own recording, broadcasting, and/or streaming devices are encouraged to inform the clerk or recording secretary to ensure attendees at the meeting are notified through the chair. In today's day and age, the chances of someone recording this is pretty high. We also record this. I believe there's notices around that it's being recorded. Is that even necessary? If the point of this is to let everyone else know that you potentially could be recorded.
Mr. Clark?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I certainly see where you're coming from, Councilor Gallardo. I think we might like to keep that just because of the different angles. We're quite certain what the angles of on YouTube are council and staff, and everyone, of course, is comfortable with that. If someone who might be broadcasting from one of the corners of the seating could catch people on the other side, and so we just want to, announce through the chair, have the chair announce that this is happening, just so everyone's aware, and give them a chance to move if they think they're in the shot.
So the onus is on the individual anyway. We're not going to be necessarily enforcing it. If we see someone recording, we're not enforcing it. It's not up to the individual to let us know.
Yes.
Okay. That was it. There's some others I'm going to bring up.
I'll go on the second time.
I'm done. I'm just going to bring up in new business because they don't really relate to
Okay.
this.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Just on the issue of abstentions, abstentions are a formal act of not voting for something, yay or nay. I don't agree that you would just get up and walk away from it. For example, if any one of us, a washroom, coffee break, whatever, and you're not there for a vote, I wouldn't say that means you're naturally abstaining from it. I think choosing to abstain from something is an action, and walking away is not. a substitute for abstaining. So I'm fine if we want to look at some other way to do it. You sit at the table and you choose not to vote and you record that as abstention. At the end of the day, it is a no, absolutely. But in my opinion, giving a member of council the option just to get up and walk away to count as abstention, I don't agree with personally. So that's just that piece. I wasn't here for the debate last week. I apologize for that. The one thing I did want to touch upon is open forum. So page 32. So in my history on council, open forum has always been one that's been discussed ad nauseum. The last time we went through this, we've settled on a situation where open forum occurs before the meeting actually occurs. So it's not on TV, it's not recorded, it's not part of the minutes. There is no association with those who come before open forum and the formal process of the meeting. My opinion is you either have it as part of the formal part of the meeting or you don't have it at all. Because really, what is being accomplished by someone coming to the podium and speaking to the 8 of us, 7 of us.
7.
It is no different than them sending an email, picking up the phone call, meeting with us one-on-one, because there is no record of it, not from a video perspective or from a written perspective. And then furthermore, there also are no rules around it. You know, we've talked about in the past, and I've been to seminars through AMO and otherwise where they've always sort of frowned on having forums whereby there's no opportunity to rebut or call into question that information that's being presented to council. For example, somebody can come to open forum and point a finger and make accusations of any type. And there really is no action within our procedural bylaw to question that person. Whereas if they came as a delegate and they were making those assumptions, at least there could be some conversation or debate going back and forth. So, you know, I'd finally like to see us do something about open forum. Either make it part of the meeting or get rid of it. My preference is that we've always been good in all my years on council of letting people come and delegate. We've never stuck to the number. If there's additional delegates, we've waived procedural bylaw time after time after time. We've never stifled public debate. We've allowed people to come to the podium and speak to it. And so I'd rather see open forum go. And should people want to speak at council, we'll do what we've always done by practice. We've waived procedural bylaw and allowed them to delegate. You know, we've had people show up at the last minute and be asked to delegate, and I've seen it time after time, this council and previous council have waived procedural bylaw and allowed it. I've yet to see a situation where somebody's ever said no. So I would like to put on the floor an amendment to remove open forum.
Second. Councillor Kim, comments or questions to the amendment? Councillor Humphreys.
Mr. Mayor, and I've actually was thinking what Councillor Thompson was saying. It's we don't have open forum as much as we used to when it was recorded and part of the meeting, and then it just seems to be slowly dwindling from what I can see. And I think there's more delegation where it's documented. It's part of our record. And we do have an opportunity to have a little bit of perhaps a response if something's being said that we would like to add or not. Sometimes during open forum, as much as I love public, want to keep it open for public, I don't believe having an official delegation stifles anyone. I think it just encourages people to go and delegate. And to Councillor Thompson's point, I don't think we've ever said no to a delegate that came last minute. So I think we're always willing to listen, and to be part of record, I think is really important. So I'm supporting this motion so far. Amendment, sorry.
Thank you. Councillor Gallo.
I think my only comments would be that while we've never really said no to someone delegating, delegation is always linked to an item on the agenda. No one can come up there unless they're presenting or asking to that isn't related to an item on the agenda. And someone will correct me if I'm wrong on that. And I see the clerk.
So it's general committee, it doesn't have to be related to an item on the agenda. Council has to be related to an item on the agenda.
Okay. So that's helpful. At least at GC you can delegate. The only other thing that I would hesitate is, while it's not recorded and we can't rebut, I know I do, and I've seen it also others, we listen, and while we can't engage, under new business, we can certainly ask staff, can you look into what was discussed? And sure, that can be done through email or through a phone call or any of that. If we were overwhelmed that there's a lineup out the door of people wanting to speak at open forum, then I think we should probably address it. I just don't see a problem. I don't see us fixing a problem by doing this. At a minimum, we're saying that the door is still open to you. You can speak, and should we choose at this side of the table to bring it up in other business, we have that opportunity. If someone doesn't want to email or call, they still have that opportunity, and I don't think we're taking anything away. We're being asked to be here 15 minutes early to do that. I don't think that's a big request to continue to open the microphone to the public.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I wasn't really prepared for this coming as an amendment, and I had time to reflect. I'm kind of similar thinking of Councillor Gallo, and I was wondering, what is the purpose of open forum, and why does the public feel compelled to speak at that time? And it could be a number of reasons. Could be they're not comfortable with the email, they don't have email, they want to, come in and they want to be engaged with the councillors one-on-one, or the mayor, or people surrounding, whatever the subject may be. It could be a topic that's not being discussed at all, and it's their opportunity where they feel this is their time to maybe express something that's not being addressed on an agenda, and they feel that this is kind of their opportunity. Is there a reason why it's not being recorded, or minutes that aren't being taken? There's a lot of questions around this motion on the floor, and I guess my question to staff would be, is there a reason why this isn't recorded or minutes aren't being taken on it?
Mr. Clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I can't really speak to the inception. This was in the procedure bylaw before I came. I believe it was just an extra, maybe an additional way that someone can come speak to council that was more informal. And so that's my understanding of it, but like I said, I wasn't here when it was first added to the procedure bylaw.
I can add to that. I think in the 2010 term, it was changed, I believe. It was changed from being recorded in part of the formal minutes to the current way it's being presented to us.
And do we know why we decided to change that and not record or
Well,
take
I mean,
minutes?
we can give you some history afterwards, Councillor. There's probably a lot of stuff that you might want to get caught up on, but yeah, I wouldn't want to rehash that. It's not time or place. We shouldn't be looking back. We should be looking forward.
So, I mean, going on that, clearly there's more things that I feel I need to learn before supporting this 100%. There was a resident who did come in open forum, and while we weren't able to call the question, as Councillor Thompson was saying, I was able to confer with staff about one of the situations and at least get some clarity and some answers moving forward. And I think Mayor Maracas, you did as well. And so I do think it does work for some of its purpose. Maybe some things in the past it hasn't been in the best light, but at this time I need more information before I can move forward and support this.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. As I said from the outset, I mean, certainly if you don't support removing it, then I would hope somebody would put the alternative on the floor and make it part of the formal agenda. The decision to move it outside of that was a long debate, and I think that was the compromise at the time. But to the best of my knowledge, we don't even advertise to the public that they can come for open forum. In the notice board, week after week, it says the meeting starts at 7 o'clock. So the public itself, we don't even tell the public to come for open forum. We don't even advertise it. So to me, it's kind of, ironic that we say, let's have it, but yet we don't promote it. We don't tell the public that the meeting starts at 6:45. In fact, we tell them it starts at 7. And by our own rules, none of us have to actually even be here for 6:45. The majority of council come as a courtesy to the people that sign up for open forum, but we don't even have that in our procedural bylaw and rules around open forum. Technically, as far as I know, it's only the clerk, maybe the chair has to sit as well. But my point is that, you know, we talk about process and we talk about the procedural bylaw really is a defined set of rules on how we want to conduct business within the town. And so this open forum has always sat outside of those rules. So you either bring it inside and have the formal session, or you get rid of it, because it's always sat in this in-between land. You know, like I said, we don't advertise it. The public doesn't really know about it. Those who follow council, for sure, you know, they are aware that it's 6:45, but, you know, I would say that that's a smaller group than the general public. For the most part, you know, if a resident were to contact us, I would assume that most of us would probably refer them to the clerks and say, you know, come delegate or come talk to this. I don't think we've often, at least myself, said to people, well, open forum starts at 6:45, why don't you come to that and just speak to the issue? We either bring it up on their behalf under new business, or again, we get them to come and sign up as a delegate and address the issue at a future meeting. So if you don't think that open forum should be removed, I hope then that you will take the opposite position and put forward an amendment that it should be part of the formal of the meeting. At this point, I just think that there needs to be structure around it. It creates more hazards than I think benefit, and there are multiple options. And so I still have the belief that we're better off either with it in or with it out, and my motion is to remove it.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Humphreys, before I go to you, I just couple comments. You know, we did this. We kind of touched on this last term, and we slightly had a bit of a discussion about it. And you know, you always want the public to come here and speak. But you know, for a lot of the comments that were made, open forum, it's not part of the record. It's not official. There's no opportunity for us to have any discussion about it. We don't even have to be sitting here. You know, I'm in favor, and I was in favor of it last term. I would even consider upping the number of delegates that are allowed during those GC meetings. So that way we could allow it, so we don't have to waive the procedural bylaw all the time. That way it does open it up for a few more people to come out. But I mean, like it's been mentioned, we're always open to waiving the procedural bylaw. We never want to stop someone from being able to come and speak to us. We encourage it. We like to have them come up here and speak to us. It becomes part of the formal record. We can ask them questions. We can inquire a little bit more and get a little bit more in depth in that conversation of what the issue is, what the problem is, instead of just an open forum. They come up and they just say a few things and then they leave, and then we have to find out, well, you know what, I actually had a couple of questions for you, but I couldn't ask because it was open forum. Right, and so there is a better way for us to do it, and that's for them to sign up as a delegate. I've never, for one, any resident that's ever asked me and they said, I got an issue and I want to speak in front of council, I've never said, come to open forum. I said to them, sign up as a delegate. And you can speak to us, and that way, if any of my colleagues have a question for you, they'll be able to ask it and you'll be able to answer it. And so I think that's a better way of doing it. I really don't see what the purpose is of open forum, and I'll agree with Councillor Thompson. If us as a majority, as a group, feel we want to leave open forum in, well then, let's make it part of the official record. But then I would argue that we already have that. That's what a delegate is for. Coming in, they're part of the official record. They can speak to any item during general committee. So, in essence, we already have it as part of the official record. We just need to utilize it more, and that's why I don't see the need for open forum, and I'll be voting in favor of the amendment. Councillor Humphreys?
Thank you, through Mr. Mayor, and you've said quite a few things that I was thinking. Just a couple quick questions, just to remind myself. Is there a limit to how many open forum delegations we can get?
15 minutes.
And it cuts off, doesn't matter if there's people in the lineup waiting to talk? Just want to confirm that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, if let's say there's 10 people, then we go like 90 seconds each. So
Okay.
it depends on how many people, and then we reduce the time for more people.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So 90, okay, perfect. Thank you. You answered two questions in one. That's amazing. And again, I just go back to it not being part of the record. Like, I do feel that the public, they leave often disappointed because we don't respond. And, yeah, we may put under new business because, we're intrigued, we want to understand more, but that poor individual doesn't realize there's really nothing we can do unless personally call them later or try to get in touch with them. If they leave and, we're trying to, and they're like, well, I talked to the council, but they didn't even respond to me. And I find it very confusing for them. That's why I love the delegation process. It's very formal. There's some interaction. There's some follow-up. It's a record, and everyone knows about it. Oh gosh, it was one other thing. I know that I don't want to speak twice before I forget, but so for me, either we put it in as a formal part of our agenda and it's documented, and there's a risk with that because, again, there doesn't have to be a topic when they come forward, and it could have us going through, again, some disappointment on the resident because we really can't do anything. It's not part of our of the business that we're working on that evening. There was one other thing, but I can't read my own writing. So anyway, I think at this point, unless someone puts it forward that we make this part of the formal agenda, I'm in support of this, and perhaps upping the delegations, as Mayor Marakis suggests. We don't turn back now, but maybe making a formal up on that account would be something that we can do to help fulfill the further communication and enhancement of that process. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson, second time.
That's actually my third, so I'll say.
Oh, is it your third?
For last time. For last
Oh, no,
one.
is it his third? It's your second on the amendment.
Oh, okay.
So that's why it's, yeah. So if you'd like to speak. go ahead.
And I appreciate Councillor Humphreys bringing it up because that was one point that I did want to make as well is, with delegations, we have an ability to converse with the delegate. If you put yourself in the resident's shoes, you have an issue, you come to the mic, you say it to everybody, and we sit here with a blank look on our face and nobody responds back to that resident. We don't even indicate to them that we're going to deal with this or say anything later. And I'm sure they do sometimes leave a little puzzled as to why nobody said anything, why didn't anybody speak. And maybe they hang out for the end of our meetings, but traditionally not so. But at least as a delegate, if they bring something to the issue, a member of council can say, thank you for bringing that to my attention. We'll discuss this under new business. So at least they leave here thinking that council may do something about their issue. The way it is now, we say nothing. We just stare at them, and then they go. Now, maybe there's time in between the start, and individually you can go up and talk to them one-on-one and say outside of the meeting. But again, the fact that we can't even converse with them is also part of that whole issue. Thank you for bringing that up, Councillor Humphreys.
Councillor Gilliland, second time.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Question, how did we formalize it prior to 2010? I thought there was a change, and in 2010 it was changed to no minutes and no recording, but prior to that there was recording. Am I misunderstanding?
Part of the meeting, I believe. I'd have to go back and look.
It was. It was there. It was. So I can, yeah, and I can speak to it, and I know Councillor Gallo can as well. It was part of the formal record. It was open forum, delegate, same setup as we have now,
Yeah.
except for it was part of the formal record.
Okay.
It was part of the agenda.
Okay. So looking at formalizing, I know Councillor Thompson mentioned there are multiple options. I don't know what those options are, and I think that's what I want to explore. When speaking with a resident who did want to come speak to council about something that was completely off topic from anything that we were discussing on the agenda, and I did explain to them, when you come to open forum, it is not recorded and such, and for whatever reason, they still yet chose to come twice during open forum. I don't know why. I don't know why they felt that. Maybe they didn't want to fill out the paperwork. They weren't on time. They didn't want the formality of the delegation. I'm not sure. But people show up for different reasons at different times in their comfort level. And I just wouldn't want to take away that comfort level. That's something that the public has always had. I don't really know the history too much. I understand that obviously I would love to be able to call the question to the delegate or the open forum public. And maybe, formalizing it in a way that we've done in the past is something that maybe we should look to versus completely removing it. I don't know what the answer is, but I feel like I don't want to completely remove something that other people and the residents or the residents of Aurora may feel more comfortable with out that formality of that delegation. I'm trying to figure out what I'm trying to say here. It's not coming out right. I just really want the public to feel comfortable coming out and speaking to council, whether it's about the agenda or not, and not feeling like they have to waive a procedure, because that can be nerve-wracking for anybody who's coming up to speak and asking council to waive a procedure. And if open forum is that area for them to feel comfortable with, then I want to make them feel comfortable doing that. The public deserves to speak, and if we have to formalize it in a way, I would rather look at ways of formalizing it so it is part of the minutes and being recorded so we can ask questions.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gallo, second.
Thank you. I was going to go through the history, but I think I'll just
That's why I said
leave it.
just,
There was an incident, and
Yeah.
it got ugly, and we'll just leave it at
Yeah,
that.
there's no point in rehashing that history.
I think, ultimately for me is I do not want to in any way stop the public from having access to us. And I don't disagree that, should we this move forward, perhaps lengthen the amount of people that can delegate to us. It's only if it's not part of the agenda, it's only at GC, and maybe the clerk can go through the process that someone has to go through in order to delegate. Would you mind?
Mr. Clark?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, generally pretty easy process. We have a delegation form online. It gets filled out and sent to us. We haven't reached the limit of delegations much lately in terms of the 4 and 2, but as long as that, and there are some other rules, of course, in the procedure bylaw, but assuming they meet those, we place it on the agenda.
What are the other rules? I mean, I'm trying to distinguish the difference between, how many hoops does someone has to go to delegate as opposed to just come up and speak.
Mr. Clark?
Through Mr. Mayor, the main 2 I'm thinking of right now are you can't delegate at GC and council about the same item, and the other stipulation that at a council meeting, a delegation needs to be to an item on the agenda.
Okay.
Councillor?
Again, for me, we ultimately serve the residents, and if I had noticed that there's a huge influx this past year of people coming up to the podium and leaving very frustrated that their views weren't, then I would be in support of, quite frankly, I don't have an issue with actually making it part of the agenda and recording it, and we're all adults. We can deal with issues that may arise. And I think, to me, that would be the best way to go, because for a resident to come here, it's a little less onerous than to, and in open forum, even if it is part of our agenda, than to fill out forms and go through a certain number of hoops in order to express their opinion. I don't want to put any restrictions on residents to come before us and express their opinions. And again, had I had seen a whole bunch, I could probably count on one hand the amount of people in the last year that have come to open forum. And they've been helpful. And some, I don't know whether they've left angry. I haven't seen it. And maybe if we sense that, we can certainly move to have them part of a delegation, and even have them come back at a later part of the meeting. My whole platform was based on public engagement, and to me, they were going one step backwards if we do this. And I wouldn't mind going one step backwards if another door opened that was just as easy, and I don't really see that. So I'm not in favor of it, simply because I haven't seen an issue with it in terms of what are we fixing. And if it fails, I hope we do something that opens up another door for them if we don't allow them to come at an open forum, and not even comfortable with just making more room to delegate. And I'll give you one example, and I think I mentioned it before. Soccer club wanted to come and promote the Oktoberfest, and they were told that they couldn't at council because it wasn't on the agenda, and that was unfortunate. And had they had the opportunity, they could have been directed at least to come to open forum, and they weren't, and I wasn't aware. I did it and it was fine. It was a great event and there's no foul. But I think if someone could demonstrate to me that we've had issues with this, then I'm happy to support it. I haven't seen that, and I don't want to even be perceived to be closing the door to an avenue that the residents have to communicate to us.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Thompson, you already spoke twice to the amendment. I'm just going to throw in, to me, the problem that we're solving, if we were to remove this, is duplication. If you make this a formal part of the record, as I mentioned before, we already have this. That's what delegate is. So they're going to come. And currently, right now, open forum, they have to fill out a sheet. I don't know, Mr. Clerk, am I correct on it? Does the resident fill out a sheet when they come to open forum?
That's correct. It's a sign-up sheet.
So they fill out a form, similar to filling out a form for a delegation. Similar.
The information we request is similar, yes.
Thank you. So, I mean, I don't see the difference. We're not getting them to do anything different. To me, it's removing that duplication. We're trying to run an efficient meeting for the public to get the business of the town done for the public. And we're not discouraging them from coming. We're asking them to come as a delegate so we can have a conversation with them, so we can find out what's wrong, so we can ask them questions. And I think that's more important than just having them come up here and just saying a few words and then walking away. And us just and we don't have to be sitting here. I mean, there's been times, it might not have happened this term, but there's been times where not all of us have been sitting here for open forum. And so all of us haven't heard what that person has come up and said. And a delegation, you are guaranteed to get 5 minutes. Open forum, if 15 people show up, you're getting 1 minute. And it's going to be tough for the resident to get their point across in that 1 minute. They might want to get that full 5 minutes. And therefore, they can sign up as a delegation, come, speak to us. Like I said, I'm all for, I mean, right now, delegations are a limit of 4 during GC and 2 for council meetings. I would have no problem moving like 6 and 4 on that. But we can deal with that separately. I'm off topic on that one. But yeah, I mean, like I said, general committee, you can speak about anything, any item. So to me, it's about removing the duplication. It's not part of the formal record. So, and if we did make it part of the formal record, we're just duplicating what we already have. So, Councillor Kim, you'll be speaking for your second time. Councillor Humphries, Councillor Humphries has spoken twice, has she not? Yeah. Councillor Kim, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm in favor of the amendment. I think the more we talk, the more it seems clear that we're gravitating towards the same conclusion, that open forum is not relevant today. You know, a large part, I think, that a lot of people don't come out to open forum is, I think it was stated once before, that if it's not going to be part of the official documentation and there's not going to be the two-way Q&A, it doesn't seem to make much sense for them to spend their 15 minutes here and communicating to us their perspective. I'm also in favor on council that you get rid of documentation. I think the deadline is Monday to delegate. There's a lot of people who don't find out until after the fact. They would have important viewpoints that would be valuable to the community and to us as council. I'd be open to having them just fill out the form up to the start of council on any topic. So I think we're roughly in agreement, so I'm not going to say much more, but I'm in favor of the amendment.
Councillor Humphries is twice. So, Councillor Humphries, you've spoken twice. Everyone's spoken twice now. So I'm going to call the vote on the amendment. Pardon? That's not a motion. This is an amendment. This is an amendment. Do you really need a third time on it? No. Okay, so I'm calling the vote. That carries. Back to the main motion as amended. Councillor Thompson, you still have the floor. You have a minute and a half.
I'm okay.
You're okay? Thank you. Councillor Gilliland.
Well, in light of the open forum being removed, I do like Councillor Kim's suggestion about removing the Monday deadline and perhaps maybe put an amendment on the floor to allow a delegate to sign up the day of council.
Yeah, Mr. Clark.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if in that sense we lose the ability to really vet what they want to delegate about, and in some cases since I've been here, that's been a problem in terms of what delegates have said in front of council, and also at council, if there's any research that they want to do, it's not possible anymore either. Maybe 9 a.m. on the meeting or on the day of the meeting, if it's 24 hours later, that gives us a chance to consider.
Councillor? That's fine. Councillor? And what's the amendment?
To be allowed to put a delegation request in up until, I would say, 9 a.m. the day of.
So what the clerk suggested.
Well, it's still the same day.
I'm just saying what the clerk suggested.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
It's
Is there a
still an
seconder?
amendment. Still an amendment.
Yeah. Is there a seconder? Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm okay with that. I think, again, we've been very lenient with adding people even at the last minute just before the meeting, so I think that that's great. I also want to just reiterate, like, having this as part of public record is really important to me, and I feel that residents will feel more valued, that they're actually getting listened to, recorded, and we can respond. I really believe it's important because I've had a lot in the past, maybe not so much this term, a few times, but last term there were people that walk away really angry and like, thank you, wouldn't even talk, wouldn't ask a question, and I'd have to explain, or people would be like, council didn't even care. So I feel that open forum, the way it's set up with us not able to respond, just does not allow for that resident to feel that they're being heard, unless we do something personally after, whether it's under new business or a one-on-one. And it's okay, but not okay, because it doesn't allow us all to have an opportunity to share how we feel about that delegation. I know I'm talking about the previous motion, but previous amendment, but I believe this is great. I like having a little more flexibility here, and it does the right thing for us, so thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Through you to either Councillor Gilliland or the clerk, just to get clarification on the amendment itself. So we're saying that delegates can sign up until 5 o'clock Tuesday or 5 o'clock Monday?
9 a.m. on Tuesday.
9 a.m. on Tuesday. And is this for both GC and council or just GC? Because we had clarified earlier that for GC, they can talk about anything. For council, it has to be specific to what's on the agenda. So I just wanted to get clarification
Gilliland?
if it's for both or one or the other.
Councillor Gilliland?
I just wasn't sure.
You said?
Is
Only be part of GC, so I'm not sure if this amendment is in lieu of the open forum discussion. That's why you were looking to make it more flexible at GC meetings, or whether you'd like to see it for both. I just wanted clarification.
Councillor?
I think the idea was make it more flexible for the open forum topics, more or less the GCs, but I don't necessarily know if I want to add confusion to the general public. If one is Monday and one is Tuesday, if it seems complicated, I'm not sure. I'm open to the discussion, but really I think the point is for open forum at GC.
Councillor Thompson? So, Councillor, just so we're aware, because what we have in front of us is that the deadline for receiving delegations at general committee or council meeting be 9 a.m. on the day of the meeting. So right now it's for both. So what is it that you'd like your amendment to be?
Well, this seems to be specific to the open forum I was talking about, so I would like to keep on the topic of GC.
So you want to remove or
Council.
council?
Yeah.
That's what you like?
Yep.
And seconder was Councillor Humphreys? Are you okay with that? Okay. Councillor Kim?
Thank you. I was just going to mention that if Councillor Gilliland was like the suggestion that I had earlier, my intention was for council. So it's been pulled out, so that's fine. I just wanted to clarify.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions to the amendment? Councillor Gallo?
Just a question in terms of when the request comes in, what process the clerk was going through, I guess a vetting, or had mentioned a vetting. What process would we go through if it's at general committee and any topic is able to be discussed? What process would we go through to allow or not allow, I guess?
Mr. Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think a lot of requests when they come in are obvious that they are appropriate for a meeting. Something that is about identifiable individuals, something that should be dealt with not as delegation in closed session, but just wouldn't be an appropriate topic for someone to discuss to council in an open session. That's recorded live on YouTube.
I'd maybe even add in maybe a legal matter.
That's okay, but I'm a little uncomfortable with vetting what someone is going to say. We have procedures at this table. Should someone say something that is untoward, the chair has every ability to shut them down and stop them. That vetting bothers me to a certain extent. How do we actually know what they're going to say? If that's what we're currently doing, who makes those decisions? We should be making them. The chair should be making them. The public has a right to come there unvetted and speak to us. They could do it through email. They could do it through phone call. Just because it's streaming, it shouldn't matter. We shouldn't have someone other than us vetting what that person is going to say at that table. The chances are, we've had it, but the chances are extremely rare. That's just my view.
Mr. CEO wanted to add something. Mr. CEO?
See, Mr. Mayor, I can say there absolutely are situations where it is appropriate that there be some form of vetting, particularly as it relates to identifiable individuals, where, and even then, it's usually a form of a recommendation to the individual that this is the reason why it shouldn't go as a delegation. And I can't think of any times when that advice hasn't been heeded by the respective delegate, and they've decided to go directly to a councillor or find some other way of getting their issue on the table. So to say that things should be vetted at the podium, I think would be dangerous in some situations, and I can vouch for the fact that I think there is some value both to council and to the community in having at least a quick sort of conversation about what the intent of the delegation is.
Councillor? Yeah.
Is it really quite difficult for someone to say, okay, I won't say that, and then show up at the podium and say exactly that? I mean, it's up to us to decide. Anyway, I'm not going to beat a dead horse. That vetting, while it may or may not be part of this, it is in terms of if it's at general committee, because any subject can be discussed. But I'm happy to support this because at least it opens another avenue. It's still much more onerous than someone walking up and just filling a form. There's still a time frame, not a big time frame, so I'm happy about that.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. With regards to vetting, I think we've in the past given a fair bit of latitude. I know there was a situation last year where it was a little bit of a legal situation, and we gave a lot of latitude to a particular person to speak to this council. And while I applaud the clerk for making sure that there is in terms of the subject matter, that if there's some relevance there, we don't vet what everybody says to the details. I mean, Monday night we had a budget meeting, and that delegate came and spoke at the podium, and didn't really get our CAO's last name correct, but, essentially said that he should be fired. We didn't vet what he had to say. We allowed him the freedom to say what he feels, and that's his opinion, and that's fine. And so I think the only vetting should happen is just to make sure that it's a relevant subject matter. Perhaps they want to come and talk about, I don't know, a federal issue. Well, maybe the clerk can kind of advise them that it's great you want to talk to it, but we have no control. I don't know. Maybe it is a particular legal matter that's before the courts, and it wouldn't be appropriate. As we've heard in the past, there are situations whereby Ms. Desario or Ms. Van Leeuwen has chimed in and said it really shouldn't be talked about in an open forum. So, there are those rare situations. But in terms of the content, I can't remember a situation where we vetted. We've taken some stuff on the chin, and that's fine. That's free speech. But I just think that the clerk has some latitude. Just make sure that the overall subject matter is appropriate or relevant. That would be the only vetting I would say.
Thank you. Other comments, questions? Call the vote. That carries. Back to the main motion as amended. Councillor Gilliland, you have the floor still. Do you have anything else?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Humphreys? No? Anybody else on the main motion as amended? If not, I will call the vote. Oh, Councillor Gallo.
Just a question on process. So the motion does say, I think, this December 10th. So taking all of these recommendations and adjusting the bylaw, and that will be presented on the 10th. And will there be, after all that's done, it'll come to a council meeting, so we'll still have an opportunity to have a sober second thought if some of these things between now and then. Won't be reported by law, but we can still
You could still
speak
pull
to
the
it by law
bylaw
or-
and speak to it and,
and amend it if
and amend it if necessary.
okay. That was it.
Okay, I will call the vote. That carries unanimously. All right, regional report. We don't have a regional report? No, we don't have a regional report. Region was a bit slow. New business. I will start to my left. Councillor Gallo.
Sorry, I wasn't prepared.
Do you want me to start? I'll start the
Yeah,
other side.
please.
I'll start
Let
the
me
other
just
side.
find mine.
Councillor Gilliland. I'm going to start from this side. I normally start new business. I don't know why. I always go to my left, but I'll start on my right.
And I don't have any new business.
All right. Thank you. Councillor Humphreys, new business. No? Councillor Kim? No? Councillor Thompson? No? Councillor Gallo, we'll right back at you.
Note. So on page 34 of our procedural bylaw, item 32, delegations at meetings of council and general committee. And it's point 4. Delegates requesting specific financial assistance or services in kind from general committee or council shall be directed to a budget committee meeting. Request made outside the budget committee meeting must include a detailed written request to the clerk prior to the meeting, which will be forwarded to the appropriate department for review. A decision will not be made at a meeting where the delegation is heard. There's two areas in here where I think, in my view at least, when Neighborhood Networks came, the Integrated Inclusive Community, C1, November 5th, 2019. I don't think that in that regard, and I'd question the clerk whether the request came, you said, bring it to a budget meeting. If they decided, no, we want to come to council, the recommendation was submit a detailed report, and I will give it to the appropriate director as it is stated in the bylaw. Was that done?
Mr. Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the request was given to me by the mayor's office and asked to be received for information.
So when we changed that and not received for information, it didn't necessarily comply with that part of the procedural bylaw. I'll read the second part just for context.
Councillor, I'm just going to interrupt for a second because you're speaking specifically to delegation. It wasn't a delegation that came forward, asked for the request. It was an informational item. So it was actually a report that was put on. The delegation was born out of the report, out of the informational item. It wasn't a delegation coming and asking. It was a report that I put on the agenda. I asked the clerk to put on the agenda. It came before us, and the delegation came to speak to that informational report. So it's slightly different from what we're looking at because it's not just a delegation coming here and just asking for funds. There was an actual report that was there first before the delegation.
I wasn't referring, that was my next point, but I wasn't referring to a delegation. I was referring to when a request for fund comes before council, the process is you direct them to a budget a committee. Should they, I guess it says, delegates requested specific financial assistance or services in kind from general committee or council shall be directed to a budget committee. Requests made outside of the budget committee should include a detailed report, and the clerk will direct them to the appropriate director for input into the budget. That didn't happen.
No, and I get what you're saying, but once again, it's under delegations.
Regardless of what it's under.
That means if a delegate comes and asks for funds, these are the steps that we would take under our procedural bylaw. It's not speaking to a report that's coming on our agenda asking for funds. It's two totally different issues. If you can point under the procedural bylaw where it speaks to a report on our agenda that speaks to following that same criteria, I'll agree with you.
So, and I'm trying to find it. There's another bylaw that speaks to delegations that under, and I mentioned this to the clerk before, under the consent agenda, if someone brings up an item, an information item, nothing wrong with that, there's no delegations that can form part of that consent agenda, and there was.
Mr. Clark?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Gall is absolutely right. Noted that to me at a later meeting. Took it back to staff, talked about it a bit more. I think we erred in not maybe putting it on the regular agenda that evening, especially if there was any chance of there being a delegation to it. So in the future, that's something we'll definitely take into account.
Councillor?
That was it. Thank you. I don't know if it's presentations or under this item, we hope that Councillor Gardner's daughter's operation went well. I haven't heard, but I think it was today, and we wish her all the best.
Thank you. I'll ask you to continue with public service announcements, please.
The Town of Aurora, in partnership with Shabbat Aurora, will host this year's Aurora Menorah Lighting Ceremony at the Town Hall on Saturday, December 22nd from 4 to 6 p.m. Join in the festivities, which include live music, the lighting of the menorah, traditional celebratory food, and children's crafts. This is one of the 15,000 public menorah lighting ceremonies worldwide that will be held this year. For more information on this event, please visit aurora.ca/menorah lighting.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson, public service.
Thank you. Join us for Aurora's Christmas Market, a 3-day outdoor event starting this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, November 29th, 30th, and December 1st at Aurora Town Hall, and your go-to spot for some amazingly unique, festive, delicious, and creative gifts. A lot of adjectives there. Celebrate the magic of Christmas with friends and family, wander through the market and enjoy the lights, festive atmosphere, caroling, buskers, and so much more. And you won't want to miss our traditional Christmas tree lighting on Friday evening at 6:30 p.m. For more details, please visit aurora.ca/Christmas Market.
Thank you. Councillor Kim.
Registrations are now open for winter recreation programs. As of December 2nd, residents can register for the winter aquatics programs. Pick up a copy of the Community Services Program Guide at one of the town's recreation facilities, or view the program guide online at aurora.ca/recguide. Keep the kids busy during the holiday season with our exciting Winterfest camp. Register now for any of the following dates: December 23rd, 27th, 30th, and January 2nd and 3rd. And for more information, visit aurora.ca/camp programs.
Thank you. Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you. It's that exciting time again. Winter overnight parking restrictions are now in effect. There is no parking on streets between the hours of 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. Parking restrictions will be enforced regardless of the current road, weather, or road conditions during this time period. So be sure your vehicle is parked off the roadway during the restricted hours. The fine for each offense is $50. For more detailed information on winter overnight parking, or to find out real-time information about when your street has been or will be plowed, visit aurora.ca/snow.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. And on that note, Aurora Bylaws once again partner with York Regional Police for Aurora's annual Toys for Tickets campaign. So in the spirit of the holiday season, if you've received a parking ticket in Aurora between November 12th and December 13th, your fine can be paid for by donating a new unwrapped children's toy and non-perishable food items. The value of the donation must be equal or exceed the amount of owing on the parking ticket. Toys must be new, unwrapped, in their original packaging. Donations of more than one toy will be accepted, and for more information how this program works, please visit aurora.ca/toys for tickets.
Thank you. At the council closed session meeting of November 12th, council appointed 7 members to the Mayor's Golf Classic Funds Committee. The committee has been established to oversee the distribution of a community initiatives fund generated from the annual Aurora Mayor's Charity Golf Classic, and is comprised of representatives from service clubs and community organizations who provide a variety of services to those in need within the town. I'm pleased to announce that council has appointed the following applicants to the committee: Barb Allen, Wendy Brown, Rosalind Gonzalez, Nancy Harrison, Kula Calaveras, Heidi, and I don't know how to say Heidi's last name. Is it Shellhorn? Thank you, I got that right. And Beverly Wood. So congratulations to them, and we're looking forward to them working on this committee. And also, council, just to let everyone know, November 21st, I was actually down in Toronto. I met with the Premier. We had quite a lively discussion. We talked about a lot of things, issues that are pertaining specific to Aurora, from the environment to planning, to the fact that we didn't see eye to eye on this one, but that we should have authority to on our planning decisions. But most importantly, we also talked about Library Square. We talked about the Armory. And I can say that the Premier and also our MPP and Deputy Premier, Christine Elliott, will be coming in the future to visit the town. We'll be visiting the Armory. They want to do a tour of the Armory. They also want to do a tour of Library Square to take a look at it. And I'll quote the Premier. He stated, "It's an exciting project that's really going to change the character of the downtown for the better." And that's what the Premier said. So I think they're just as excited as we are. Well, yeah. We'll find out soon enough. So just with that, we'll move to confirming bylaw. Someone like to move that? Councillor Kim, Councillor Humphreys. Call the vote. That carries. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Gallo. Councillor Kim, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.